When's the right time to buy? Should I sell? Are we still in a bubble? When's the crash going to start? These are all questions that you guys pepper me with here on YouTube, into my email inbox, into my Instagram DMs, and I get it. You guys all want to know, when's the right time to act as a potential home buyer or investor or as a potential seller? Because let me tell you, we are in crazy bubble-driven times right now in the housing market in the fall of 2021, and it can be really confusing out there because you have some people like myself saying that we're in a big bubble and there's going to be a big housing crash. Meanwhile, pretty much every other YouTuber and the mainstream financial media thinks prices are still going to go up. On top of that, there's all these differences going on across different cities and markets across the country. And so I'm making today's video to help you guys cut through all the narrative-driven BS and actually make a better decision about when the right time to buy or sell is related specifically to your city. So what I'm going to do here is show you 3 key data points that I use week by week and month by month to track housing markets and understand whether they're buyers markets, sellers markets, and when the right time to make a move is as a potential buyer or seller. And the great thing about these data points is they are publicly available. You can download this data every week and actually track your market specifically. So what I'm going to do in this video is actually show you how to use these data points to make a better decision about your specific housing market. And on top of that, by the end, I'm going to show you where you can download this data for yourself week by week. If you're a serious home buyer or investor or someone who just wants to learn more about the US housing market, you are not going to want to miss this video. Let's get into the data. We're going to get things started by looking at the holy grail of housing market data and understanding what's going on in your housing market in real time, and that's inventory. How many homes are on the market, and specifically, how many homes are on the market today compared to a year ago? And that's what we're looking at on this graph for the Miami metro area housing market. And we can see historically, going back to late 2016 all the way through the middle to late 2020 period, inventory in Miami was pretty stable. It might have gone down by a bit in certain periods, maybe 5, 6, 7%. It might have gone up by 10, 11, 12% in certain periods, but it just didn't move around too much. However, something changed substantially around August 2020, which is this dotted blue line. After this period, inventory started plummeting in Miami. The amount of homes on the market just kept going down, down, and down, all the way to a low point in June where there was a 52% decline in inventory year over year. And today through late September, we're at a 47% decline in inventory. And what this means in practical terms is that if you're a home buyer or a real estate investor in Miami looking for something to buy, you're out of luck. There's only around 20,000 homes on the market across the Miami metro right now available for sale. That compares to about 40,000 a little over a year ago. That means that we're in a huge seller's market in Miami. You have all of these buyers competing over a very small pool of available properties. And of course, that is causing prices to go up, which you can see exemplified by the blue line on this graph, which is tracking the year-over-year percentage change in list price in Miami. And so what we can see is that this was pretty unspectacular for most of the last 5 years. Home list prices in Miami increased by maybe 2%, 3% a year. They actually went down a little bit in early to mid 2020, but then really over the last 6 months, they've started skyrocketing all the way to a 15% increase in list price year over year in Miami through late September compared to that 47% decline in inventory on the market. And these are directly related. The further down that inventory goes, the more that list price will go up and vice versa. And so what this means is that you're a potential home buyer in Miami right now or any market that's experiencing this situation of inventory down 50% and list prices up 15% or more, you probably want to sit it out. Because if you get into the market today and try to buy a house or a condo, you're likely going to have to make big sacrifices on quality and location, and you might end up buying something that you end up hating. Now, if you're a potential seller in the Miami area, it's probably a great idea to get your house on the market because it's unlikely you're going to find much more favorable conditions than you have right now. To get a sense of why that might be the case, let's take a look at a different market, in this case, Washington, D.C. Whereas Miami has record low inventory, DC is actually seeing surging inventory plus 16 to 20% year over year. And meanwhile, median list price in DC is declining. So the exact opposite situation, DC is actually turning into a buyer's market and is becoming a much more friendly environment for home buyers and investors. If you guys are enjoying the data in this video, you want to see more of it going forward, make sure you just smash that like button, make sure you hit it really hard. When you do that, I get more exposure on YouTube, which means I can actually make more of these videos in the future. Also, make sure to stick around to the end of the video where I'm going to show you guys how you can download and look at this data yourself. But DC wasn't always this way. If we zoom back a mere 15 to 18 months, we can see that inventory in Washington, DC plummeted around mid-2020, and by August 2020, it was down by 44% year over year. Of course, while this was happening, list prices were surging across DC in mid-2020, and they've kind of moved in the opposite direction since then. So what Miami is kind of going through today, right, with the super low inventory and surging list price, DC went through already about 18 months ago or so, and then inevitably came off those highs and went from being a seller's market to a buyer's market. And this is the key point, everyone. The rock bottom inventory levels that you see in a place like Miami today are not going to last. At some point, list prices are going to go up. When list prices go up, it's going to induce more sellers into the market. Additionally, when prices get more expensive, certain people are going to decide to leave the city altogether. And eventually the market will rebalance itself just like DC did, just like many other markets throughout America are, which we're going to check out later in this video, some other markets that have turned into buyers markets. Now, I know you guys are probably curious, how does your market look? So let's take a look at a map of the 100 largest metro areas in the US and filter it by changes in inventory year over year. It's going to lead to some very interesting insights about which markets are the buyers markets today, which markets are the sellers markets. So here we go, everyone. We have the 100 largest markets in America on this map, and the first thing we're going to do is filter them by changes in inventory and listings year over year. And we're going to look at the markets that have had the biggest decline in inventory, the Miamis of the world, the ones where there's a 50% decline, a 60% decline in inventory, there's nothing on the market. If we filter it, we can see that primarily these are southeast markets, as I've said multiple times. Florida in particular is probably the hottest housing market in America right now. You can see pretty much every market in Florida has had a big decline. We see Miami at 47% less, Lakeland at 50% less, Orlando at 46% less, Tampa at 38% less. If we go up to South Carolina, Charleston and Greenville, similar situation, as is Raleigh and Durham, as is Nashville, Tennessee. So if you're in any of these markets in the Southeast, which would also include Jackson, Mississippi, and Baton Rouge, it might be wise to wait, because if you try to buy, you're just getting into a situation that's not favorable to you. You're going to have to compete with a lot of people over a very small stock of inventory, and we know that eventually inventory is going to bounce back, as it has in these markets in green, where inventory has bounced back year over year. Not only is inventory no longer declining in these markets in green, it's going up. Places like Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., Akron, Ohio, Toledo, Boise, Idaho, Spokane, I pronounced it right this time, guys, Sacramento, Stockton, Fresno, Bakersfield. These are places where inventory is going in the other direction. And it's these changes of inventory which are really driving the bus on the housing market turning. If there's more and more homes on the market, such as the places in green that we just looked at, that means the market is softening. It's shifting from being a seller's market to a buyer's market, and could be in the early stages of a housing crash. As I've talked about in previous videos, I believe many of these West Coast markets are in the very early stages of a massive, massive housing crash, 30, 40, 50% price declines in some of those areas. So even though inventory is going up, it might not be the right time to buy in some of those areas yet. Another thing you want to consider in addition to inventory is that list price data, right? There are certain markets in America where list prices are actually plummeting right now. They're going down month over month. It's becoming cheaper for home buyers in these markets already. These could be places where you do want to look if you're a buyer or investor today, where you can actually get a pretty good deal in a market that might not actually crash too hard over the next couple months. And you can get a sense of this by looking at the list of markets ranked by year-over-year increase in median list price, which you can see on this graph. And number one is Austin, Texas. 34% year-over-year increase in median list price, which means even though that inventory is increasing a lot in recent years, price cuts are increasing, the overall price level is still very high, and you probably don't want to get in. And that's the case for all of these markets, really. I think in the top 10 or so, really they're much more expensive than they used to be, and I think a lot of them have huge, huge downside in prices today. But if we scroll down this list and go all the way to the bottom, we can see that, holy smokes, there's actually a bunch of markets where list prices have actually declined or actually going down year over year. Places like Toledo, Ohio, interestingly, Jackson, Mississippi, the list price is down, even though inventory is also down. Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Omaha, Nebraska, Winston-Salem, North Carolina, Cleveland, Ohio, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Springfield, Massachusetts, Harrisburg, PA, Memphis, Tennessee. These are some markets where the list prices are going down year over year and thus could represent interesting buying opportunities today for you as a home buyer and investor if you feel that there isn't going to be much more price downside in these markets going forward. What you notice among those markets with the biggest declines in list price are places across the Midwest. Ohio, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, are seeing declines in list price over the last couple months. And the great thing about a lot of these Midwest markets is that while they might be some of the first to experience real price declines, it's unlikely that they experience major housing crashes because most of these places, whether they be Pittsburgh or whether they be Toledo, the home prices are already pretty cheap to begin with and pretty reasonable and affordable for locals given what local wages and incomes are. So I'm not ready to give a buy signal for really most places in the US right now, but if you did want to buy and you were in the Midwest, it's likely a much better experience today than it used to be, likely one of the best experiences of anywhere in the US to buy right now if you're in the Midwest. Now in these videos, I only have a certain amount of time to cover a certain amount of metro areas, and as a result, I think a lot of you watching, or perhaps most of you, are saying, hey Nick, what about my city? What about my market? I want to know how inventory is looking. I want to know how list prices are looking so I can make a better decision as a home buyer, investor, or seller. Well, you guys are in luck because right now I'm going to actually show you how to look up this data for yourself. It's super simple, it's super easy, and once a week, once a month, you can download this data and get a sense for what direction your housing market is going. Let's get into it. So this data comes from Realtor.com. So the first thing we're going to do is type in Realtor.com data into the Google search and then open up the first result here. Real estate data, Realtor.com real estate data library. Scroll down. The first thing we're going to look at is called Inventory Weekly. It's a weekly update of the inventory and list price situation in the top 100 metro areas across America. And you can see it was updated recently with data through September 25th. This is the information we just looked at in the video. So what you're going to want to do is click View Metro Data. You'll see it'll download in Excel. Open it up. And guys, boom, here we go. We have all of the data that we were just looking at in this video. CBSA title. This is all the different metro areas. You can see organized by their size, ranked 1 through 100, the 100 largest metro areas. And if you scroll down, it resets at each previous week. So now we reset, we're on September 18th instead of 25th. And we have all the data points we were looking at. Median list price year over year, active listing count year over year, in addition to some extra data points like median days on the market, new listing count, price reduced count year over year. So you can really go wild looking at this data for yourself. But where things really get fun, guys, is filtering the data, sorting it, looking at the markets with the biggest increase in listings, the smallest increase in listings. I'm going to show you how to do that right now. Highlight the entire sheet, then hit filter. Then go to the week end date, deselect all, and then you're going to want to just select the most recent week. So we're only looking at the most recent week of data. And then go nuts. What are the markets with the biggest year-over-year median list price? Sort largest to smallest. There we go. Austin, Northport, Boise, smallest to largest. We see Toledo, Jackson, Mississippi with the biggest declines. You can do the same thing with active listings, sort it largest to smallest. Oh, Boise, Idaho with 147% increase in listings year over year, tops everyone else. What about price reduced count year over year? Once again, sorted, you can see Boise, Idaho, 1,300 year over year. Stockton, Spokane, Austin, Colorado Springs, big increases in price cuts. So all of a sudden, you guys now have the power in your hands to look at this data on your own, to track your market week by week. Bookmark the Realtor.com website, check back each week, download the data, see how your market's trending. And if you're a potential home buyer, there is no excuse for not understanding this. You do not want to be reliant solely on what local realtors and investors are telling you, because they have all types of incentives to skew the reality and try to FOMO you into buying in today's housing market. You want to know what the data is on your own. A great way to do that is by watching this channel, subscribing to this channel, liking my videos. I'm going to give you guys these updates each week, each month, no matter what. But in case I don't cover your city, or in case you want to know more and learn how to explore this data on your own, go to Realtor.com, go to the data section, and start playing around with those Excel spreadsheets. And so if you guys do appreciate this video and you haven't done it already, just make sure to hit that like button. That's the main way that I get exposure on YouTube. And when I get more exposure on YouTube through you guys hitting the like button, I can produce more of this content going forward. So I'd really appreciate that if you haven't done it yet. Additionally, if you really enjoy this data and you like nerding out on it and you want to know more about it, think about becoming a channel sponsor. The cost is $5 a month. And as a sponsor, you get some really cool perks, namely a monthly monthly newsletter that's only available to sponsor members, which breaks down all of this data in all of the housing markets across the US each month. You can see an example of it on the screen right now from the last month's newsletter. This month's comes out on Friday, October 7th. If you want access to that only in a couple days, make sure to hit that join button below. There's also a link in the description. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's definitely more technical in nature, and I wanted to make this technical video for those of you out there who really want to learn more, right? And want to learn how you can do this yourself. This is a great first step. Learning how to download these Excel spreadsheets, move around in these Excel spreadsheets. This is a great way so you can learn more, enhance your skill set, and also understand where your housing market is going. All right, guys, until next time, this is Nick from Reventure Consulting signing off.